Once
No, it's not a
again,
Mentos. It's a breath saver.
Oh.
wow. Listen, once again, my Justin is not with us, and it takes two people, two very talented people, to take the place of one Justin Gonzalez.
Well, really talented Jason, and then just me, but that's okay.
Oh, stop it, Melissa, Julia. For those of you who don't know, Melissa is a host of several radio shows. Melissa, you want to share the name of that radio show?
Sure. So we've got Viaggio Musicale on
Wait,
Sundays
wait,
and
no, the other one, the other one.
Mattinata Musicale.
Yeah, that's the one,
Yeah,
Julia.
yeah,
You've
yeah.
heard of that one, right?
Everybody's heard of that one.
Italian. You're Italian.
Yes.
I love it. Where is that? Where does that air? I want to listen to that.
So you can hear it on podcast 24/7 on the radio stations for WILM or 92.1 FM, which in this area is Cruising 92.1. But
I didn't hear the first word. What?
it was for WILM.
No, the first word of your show. The first.
Oh, there's Mattinata Musicale and
What does matinada mean? Oh, matinee? Musical
That's-
matinee?
It's that morning musical morning.
Okay.
Translate to, yeah.
And what was the other one?
Viaggio Musicale, and that's musical
Voyage, musical trip. Yeah,
There you
okay.
go. Yeah.
Julia, I'm impressed you could
Look at that.
translate.
I understand more than I can speak it.
There you go,
Julia-
Jason. Now we just got to get you up to snuff on your Italian, and we're good.
Me?
I can do that.
Okay.
I can do that. That'll be
Well,
for
no,
another
Julia's
show. Let's
already
look.
a step ahead.
We have a guest that's sitting in the virtual green room, eating all the virtual sushi and drinking all our virtual wine. So let's bring him out before he's unable to talk.
Hey, hey.
Now Bruce Valanche, everybody.
Live in his
Hey,
color.
Bruce.
Hi. Just sending out an email that will stop World War III. Please hold, still checking. I have a very fast thumb, but it's too big for this keyboard. All right, I've done it now. We're all straight. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello,
Thank you
everybody.
for being here, Bruce.
It's
And it's
wonderful.
very fast
Wow.
thumb.
Musical matinee.
Bruce, where's home for you, Bruce? What time is it where you are?
I'm in Hollywood, California, where it is tea time, 4:06.
Oh, lovely. Well,
So-
thank you for
so
joining us
I-
during
You
tea
know, I'm
time.
having just a short bourbon.
That's how you do it.
hmm
Julia, what are you drinking?
Not a short bourbon, that's for sure. I'm not drinking anything. I'm having a
I
mint.
just pretend.
No, I have right here. Look, I have a cup of Folgers, hot cup of
Oh.
Folgers.
That's good because Doug never has a second cup of your coffee.
No, he doesn't.
So listen, you two have a mutual friend in common. Did you already discuss Max Alexander?
Not today.
No, I haven't mentioned him. I haven't. No. How's he doing?
Well,
I
not so
haven't seen
good.
him in ages.
Well, he's
I ran
dead.
into him. This is so long about 7 years ago, coming out of the Friars Club in New York.
He's dead.
I was
Bruce.
staggering out, and he was staggering in.
He's dead.
He's
I
not
know.
staggering
It makes
anymore.
sense, but I was not a friar, and I never joined. But I know I think he was a big friar.
But he's still dead.
But he's still dead. He died.
He died 5, 6, 7 years ago.
He died. Okay, that's why I haven't heard from him. He,
That cuts off communication.
I
You
had
would hope.
forgotten.
You
I
never
thought,
know.
for some reason, I thought I hadn't heard from him. And I thought, oh, I wonder what he's doing. And then then suddenly the dime dropped, and I realized, well, it couldn't be a dime anymore. Now it's got to be a quarter.
No, yeah.
And he was gone. He was. I saw him somewhere, and I got him a job as Ann Marcus opening act when she was still playing Vegas about 15, 20 years ago. And he was her opening act until she stopped doing, live shows. Because at a certain point, you could just kick so high. But he was great.
He was a good guy, a sweetheart. He was. We reconnected when I came back to comedy, and he was one of the first people that I met again. He actually tried to hook us up, not romantically, just
Well,
Yeah,
that's
Julia.
a fool's errand, but why not try?
Well, Julia was making a comeback to comedy, and he was trying for you. She ended up with me. but look where she ended up. She's okay.
I'm
I had
doing
nothing to
okay.
do with the switch. This is post switch. Now, Bruce, I'm so excited you're here. You know, just when I look at your credits and when I look at your IMDb page alone, like you're such a pop culture icon. I mean, you everything that I grew up with, you took part in. All the, I mean, the cornball variety shows, the Oscars, everything. You had a part of. You're like the Forrest
I
Gump of
was.
entertainment.
I had a young agent at William Morris some years ago who said, "Why don't you delete the last 3 pages of your IMDb list because it makes you look very old?" And I said, "You're very young to think that." I mean, all that stuff is interesting, and it's like that's who I am. I mean, that history is who I am. I mean, we're not going to, we're not going to. You're not going to be able to sell me on somebody who's fresh out of the carton.
No,
There are.
no.
I'm sorry, Jay Paul.
No.
I was watching your interview on the Archive American Television. I think there was, and
Yeah,
real fascinating stuff. Things I really didn't know.
it is. I looked at it yesterday for something. Somebody said you have a great explanation of the Rob Lowe Snow White.
That's what I was gonna. I saw
I
it.
looked at all I could see was all my Hitchcock waffles. I covered all this up for 32 years, and then I saved it for Hairspray. And then
I was stunned at that, though. I did not remember it, and then I went back and watched it on YouTube, and
yeah,
it's
You were one of the few survivors of that debacle.
I was. And the funny part of it it truly was no worse than any of the other Oscar production numbers. I mean, the year before they had Terry Garr on an airplane wing with the Rockettes flying down to Rio, and that was pretty awful. And
not as bad as this, though. This was. You want to explain what happened for those of people who didn't see it?
well, a lot happened. I mean, it was Alan Carp who was Can't Stop the Music and La Cage aux Folles, a lot of big Ann Margaret's manager. And he was producing the show that year, and he had seen a show in San Francisco called Beach Blanket Babylon, which was a fixture of San Francisco. The storyline of the show was Snow White comes to San Francisco and meets all these strange characters. And he thought it would be great if they brought Snow White to Hollywood to become a movie star. And it would be Snow White returning to Hollywood, but she was returning to old Hollywood. And so he had the Coconut Grove on stage. He had Merv Griffin, who had actually sung at the real Coconut Grove,
Right.
up there singing What Else But I Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts. And he had people around the stage at tables, stars of the golden age, but they'd all been brought in from the motion picture country homes or their living facilities in Palm Springs. And they were not as you wanted them to be. So it was like Dorothy Lamour being dragged across the stage by two dancers wearing glasses. Not Tom DeLeo at all. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans just sitting there, not moving. Tony Martin and Sid Charisse did insist on moving.
She actually looked pretty good, though. She looked pretty good.
She was, among the younger of the old.
Yeah.
Alice Faye, and but they were, it was. If you knew from the old days, you were mildly horrified because they were nothing like you remembered. If you didn't know them from the old days, you were saying, "Who the fuck are these?"
Oh yeah, Roy Rogers.
What home have they?
It was Gene Autry who was there, right?
In French, in the middle of everything, out comes Rob Lowe, the young hip element, and he starts dancing with Snow White, and they're doing Proud Mary. And it's not great. It's okay, but it's not great. And again, you were going, and who is this Snow White? She was the actress from San Francisco. And then she goes into the audience and starts talking to stars, and they're all looking at her like, please don't call on me, Miss Kraskin. and it's all going south rapidly. And it could have gone farther south because the number was very long. And there was a 4-minute tap dance done by the Nicholas brothers, who were two 80-year-old black guys who were famous for doing splits coming down staircases in old musicals. They were brilliant.
They were, yeah. Uh-huh.
But they were like 80, and it was scary to watch them rehearse this. And their partner was Mayim Bialik, who at the time was the girl who was Little Bette Midler in Beaches. She then became Blossom and Big Bang Theory, and now she's Jeopardy. So, and she's a neuroscientist. Her commercials tell us. But then she was a girl. It looked like they shrunk Bette Midler, and here were these two black old tap dancers, and the three of them. And it was again another one of like these. What the fuck? And it had nothing to do with anything except it was at the Coconut Grove. So that got cut. So that was a mercy. Then the Coconut Grove went away, and suddenly it became Grauman's Chinese Theater. And the box office of Grauman's Chinese Theater. And Snow White is standing by the box office of Grauman's Chinese Theater under the marquee. And of course, we realized as we put back that the whole marquee is a headpiece she's wearing, like a Ziegfeld Follies girl. And it's spectacular. And then it goes away. She sinks into the floor. A staircase came down, and Lily Tomlin came down the stairs. And we were watching this rehearsal, and Lily said, "How do I save this?" I said, "There's nothing you can do." I said, "Here's an idea. Lose your shoe on the way down the stairs."
What was it like backstage watching that?
Say, well, a fitting finale to the opening number. And then just go on, because there was no host that year, and she was just saying welcome to the Oscars, and then we were going into the credits. Anyway, it was predictably bad. People thought, but it kind of went away, except for two things. One was the next day Disney sued the Academy because the head of Disney was pissed off. Frank Wells, now dead, was pissed off at the Academy because he wanted to shoot a number at the new Disney theme park in Florida with Snow White, and the Academy would not let him. And then they did. So he went ahead and made a commercial anyway, and it appeared right after the number. It was like, "Here's Snow White again." So he was mad. So he sued, and then a whole bunch of people that the Academy and the network would not let on the show because they were old wrote a letter condemning the show. And
you had some legends writing that letter, didn't they?
Yeah, Gregory Peck, Julie Andrews, a bunch. And then 2 weeks later, the Rob Lowe sex tape, where he had gone to Atlanta to the Dukakis convention, the Democrats, and he had screwed this 17-year-old girl, and there was a sex tape. And so every time it aired on television, the story, they would say, "Rob Lowe most recently seen in the controversial Snow White cover on the Academy Award." So it grew like some kind of malignant tumor into this legend about how awful it was. And it was pretty bad. But I mean, believe me, there have been things that are equally awful.
Yeah, Julie was asking.
This was colossally. I mean, it was a confluence of a lot of stuff that made it.
I pictured, after watching it in the booth or off stage, it's like a scene from The Producers where they're just speakless watching
we didn't have Hitler. We didn't have,
you might as well have.
It wasn't deliberately bad. It was just ridiculous. I mean, everything that could have been wonderful was terrible. It was an interesting idea that could not be executed correctly, and so it was a disaster. And it took on the weapon because it connected with another disaster. But I had nothing to do with that number except advising Alan to cut the Nicholas Brothers and Mayim Bialik and giving Lily an entrance at the end of it. It was all imported from.
So you almost saved it. You kind of saved it a little bit.
A little.
What was
part of the deal that Disney made with the Academy is it was cut from the official video of the show, which of course means the Academy doesn't acknowledge it, but it's on YouTube because it existed. There were 8 million people watching television, bootlegging the tape. Not just 1989.
So when you get a project like that, you design the Oscars or write the Oscars,
Yeah.
is that done by committee in terms of what the theme of it's going to be, or how it's or is it one person saying this is what I want it to be?
On the Academy, on the Oscar show, the Academy show, there's a board of governors, and there's an executive director of the Academy and the president of the Academy. They are the point people, and they approach traditionally. It may change next year, but traditionally, ever since it's been on television, the producer of the TV show is a movie producer, and the director of the TV show is a TV director. The idea was to not turn it over to TV people, because remember, this goes back to the 50s when there was a real difference. When TV people were mostly people who had done B movies, which were made fast and cheap, and they would go make television with them. And the A people were still making features. So there's always been a movie producer. Then they sit down, and she comes up with, they come up with their ideas and what they want to do. And that's discussed generally just with the president of the Academy and the executive director. And then it goes from there. They decide if they want to host, which they always do. And then when they don't have a host, it's because everybody they wanted to turn them down, which happens frequently because nobody wants to get in their own way by bombing on the Academy Award. So then they figure out what the show is going to be. If the show is going to have a theme, it varies from year to year. Gil Tate produced 17 of them, all of which I co-wrote, and he always loved to have a theme. It never made a shred of sense. And the only time it ever got in our way was when the theme was women in movies. And we had a lot of funny jokes about awful things women have to do in movies, as Billy Crystal was hosting. And it followed a clip of women in movies that was so brilliant. The audience was in tears when it was over. And out comes Billy with a bunch of jokes about tits and ass and, Sharon Stone slashing Bush and all that kind of stuff. And it did not go down well. He saved himself because, that he's Billy and he knows how to do that. But it was because it was a theme. And the joke is that, nobody pays attention to the theme. And so they don't do it anymore. The team is getting through the show.
It's too all over the place already.
Yeah, exactly. It all depends on what the year is like. But the interesting thing about that show is that they're always reinventing the wheel, but it has to be until the Academy makes some structural. And they toy with it of not giving every single award on the air. Problem is for the audience, there are only 4 acting awards. The audience is used to seeing the Golden Globes, the SAG Awards, and the Emmys, and the People's Choice, where there are hundreds of acting awards. On this show, there are 4 people who they may be recognized, and there are some other winners they may recognize if they're famous enough people. But the star power comes from the presenters, and lately from the musical people who are generally writing the song they wrote to get an Oscar. Not really a song, but
have you written? I'm sorry.
If they wish to change that structure, then things can actually meaningfully change. And they've toyed with it, but they've never actually done it.
I'm ignorant. Have you written a sitcom episodic any series?
Yeah, I've written on a whole bunch of series. I've sold a whole bunch of pilots that didn't go, and I have been a punch-up guy and still am a punch-up guy on a shows. They don't do them as much as they used to because it's gone from broadcasting to narrowcast, and so everybody costs a lot of money. And when they have a staff of money, there's no more money to bring people in. So they tend to do everything in house. But they used to occasionally they want to see fresh eyes on. And so I will come in on that. It used to be all the time.
How do you get a reputation as a? How do you get the reputation as a punch-up guy as opposed to a writer guy?
Is that just through time because people know you're funny at a certain point?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they know I'm funny, and I've written stuff, and they say, "Oh, we'll get him in here. We'll sit at the table. We'll come up with some stuff, and we need jokes. We need funny. We need somebody
Boy,
with
I
a
give
stuff to look
I
at."
give you a lot of credit because
That just comes from being around town.
yeah, as a comic, I don't know. Somebody came and said, "We need you to punch us up." I'd be like, "No," I'd
Well,
run
it
away.
depends on. I mean, if you're a funny person, I mean, if you're a comic, you might see something in it that you could throw a joke in there or something like that. I mean, desperate people do desperate things. But I can understand, it's a different, writing for yourself is one thing, and writing for a character is another.
Well,
Let
that's
me
the
just
big
take a
question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
No, I gotta say that Julia, about what you just said, I think you have no problem punching anything up. You're a naturally funny human being.
Well,
I
thank
just
you.
gotta throw that out there.
appreciate that. I
And
appreciate
you,
it.
Bruce, you've seen her on certain funny women of a certain age, right?
I saw her on the Showtime special and wrote her a fan letter.
Yes.
He did, and
That should mean
it
something to you, Julia.
was my favorite one of all time to get. I was so honored to get it. Thank you.
You were great. That show was funny. I mean, you were great.
They did it. Carol did a great job. She just taped another one. I think they're gonna go with it. They're gonna keep producing them. So
I just noticed your your name, Bruce.
Oh yeah. I changed my name from Caitlin to Bruce years ago.
oh,
Finally revealed that.
finally a Caitlin I can respect. Oh, he made it laugh.
Carefully spelled that way so nobody else would have it. I sense the fine hand of Kris Jenner behind the whole thing.
Oh God. She just won't go away.
I know. Well, she established the Republic of Kardashian, and
I love that. Oh my God, that's great. The Republic of Kardashian.
Bruce, I gotta ask you. You've met. I mean, you are pretty much, the Forrest Gump of entertainment. You've been everywhere. You met everybody. But who is there anybody who would start
Zelig.
or Zelig? Yes. Is there anybody who you would be starstruck at this point? Who you would say, oh, or do you remember the most starstruck you've ever been?
Don't be afraid to mention me.
Yeah, I mean you've done it all. You've introduced people to Anne Margaret. Now you get to be here with me, Melissa, and Julia. So you have arrived finally. But
Well, truthfully, I've met a lot of people, and there are people who I'd like to meet who I haven't met for one reason or another. But I don't know that I'd be starstruck. I mean, I think I know too much now, and I've worked at too high a level of stuff to actually be in awe. The people I was in awe of are all dead. I mean, they are. I mean, I think Lady Gaga is terrific, and I met her before she really became Lady Gaga, so she doesn't really. But but there are a lot of people who I'm fans of and happy to meet and write fan letters. I don't know. The thing that happens is when you meet somebody and you're kind of gobsmacked, they turn out not to be what you thought they were, or what you didn't really want to meet Betty Davis. You wanted to meet Margot Channing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to meet Katharine Hepburn, who was attached to an old woman when I did meet her. I wanted to meet Tracy Lord, not because she was a Tracy Lord, but the character from the Philadelphia. and it kind of goes like that. I mean, Sean Connery was not James Bond. And Cary Grant famously would say, "I'm not Cary Grant. Cary Grant is a made-up character, made-up guy."
Yeah,
I'm Archie,
Archibald, right?
I'm Archie from the vaudeville, from the musical. I mean, he did a great Cary Grant impression, but and nobody else has come up with anything like that. They used to say, I mean, in script, you would say he's a Cary Grant type. Because there are no Cary Grant. That was made up then,
mm-hmm.
and it's made up now. I mean, so much of the golden age of Hollywood was made up by people by Jews who could not break WASP society and created their vision of what it must be like. And people get into WASP society and they say, it's not like it is in the movies at all. Everyone's drunk on their ass all the time and they're all boring people. And as the Jew, I can say that.
Lashana Tova to you, Bruce. Caitlin.
I'm allowed.
Like Cary Grant, was to me one of the great light comedians of all time.
Yeah.
And you're right. Nobody could do what he did, but what he did was brilliantly funny. I could watch Arsenic and Old Lace, and Bringing Up Baby, and all of those.
Yeah.
It's never old for me. You're right. He was a true original, but boy, funny.
Yeah.
Would you say George Clooney has got a little Cary Grant in him?
Well, he looks a lot like Clark Gable. I mean, he's prettier than Clark Gable.
Yeah.
But he's got a combination of both that kind of thing going.
He's got the old Hollywood look, the leading man look.
Yeah.
I'm not crushing on George Clooney. I'm just saying.
No, he's believable. I mean, Ryan O'Neal tried it, but Ryan O'Neal was a little too jejune. He's not believable as the head of a corporation and all those things that George can play. You play a person of substance who has accomplished.
Yeah.
You're right. He may be the only one. I mean, I haven't thought about it much, but
what are you working on now?
Getting
You don't
off
mind me?
the show. I mean, my God.
I don't blame you. I got a bowl of bread flakes waiting for me.
DoorDash is pounding down my gate. I'm working on a bunch of stuff I can't talk about because we haven't announced it yet, but new musical and this and that, and so I got nothing to plug.
Okay.
Oh wait, we have a few commenters.
Oh, good.
I see. Mark Riccadonna just asked the question: did Cary Grant really trip on LSD regularly?
I don't know if he did regularly. I mean, Diane Cannon told me that he had her do it with him once, and that he was on it a couple of different times. But I don't know the regularity of it. It's certainly no secret.
That's something that would happen to me in a dream. I mean, and that these people, you've met these people in real life. That's like I had a dream that I did LSD with Diane Cannon and Cary Grant. Like that's not reality for me.
Weird. It was. I knew Diane before she married Cary, before she was famous, but I knew her. She was my cousin's roommate. Then she had done Broadway. Diane. She was in How to Succeed in Business Broadway. She replaced Michelle Lee, if you believe this, and the national tour. And then she did a couple of other little things, and then came out here and really happened. Bob and Carol Finale, which was around '69. But and then she met Cary Grant later and all that. At one point, she was an Alan Carr client, and we put together a nightclub act. It was not her forte. I mean, she could sing and dance. She was on Broadway, but she wasn't really a nightclub act. And she had some very high-level bookings that were not great, and she, pushed that away. I don't know. I don't remember when that was in terms of Cary Grant, but they had a daughter, Jennifer Grant, who's an actress and who played. I think she played like a Diane Cannon part. She played like a woman who marries a famous actor on a sitcom with Harry Hamlin. They were living in Malibu, and I can't remember the name of it. It only went to. Anyway, that was somewhere in there too. And then Diane was on Hollywood Squares a lot. We like to have her on.
Is she still with us? Is she?
She is.
Yeah, she's still with us. She lives in Hollywood. Yeah, I haven't seen her in ages, but I haven't. I don't go to Lakers games.
She had the greatest laugh.
Famous going to Lakers and Clipper games. The big basketball star. A fan, not a star.
I think she was a star. She could slam dunk like nobody's business.
And dribble, but that's not. Let's not go there.
I have to ask you, I almost didn't want to bring it up, but I have to ask you, how big a part did you have in the Star Wars Christmas special?
Well, I was one of the writers. There were, I think, 3, maybe 4 of us. It was, as I've told people, if we'd known 47 years ago that they were going to be talking about this show, we would have taken it. But it was 1977, and we were all chemically old, and it was Star Wars, and it was one of many hysterically bad specials, high concept stuff. There were 3 networks in those days, and a lot of these shows were done to showcase variety people and other people on the network. So the guest stars on that show were all from other CBS shows, pretty much, and we just thought it was a ridiculous idea. And I when I talk about it, I have to tell people, this gets them mad, that Star Wars was not that well regarded at the time. It was a big, silly summer movie that made a lot of money. And everybody, of course, out here held that in very high esteem, but they didn't think that much of it. And it was later generations who watched the first 3 movies on VHS and then streamed them and all that, who turned it into the Scientology of the nerd.
It was the movie when it came out. It was a movie that you went to see that chemically altered. I know I did when it first came out.
Most of the audience was.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only way to see it.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I was so baked. I didn't have to melt the butter on the popcorn. I just put my hand in. It would just melt.
And it was good when you saw it that way.
Yeah, I can't share that sentiment. I was 6 years old, so.
Yeah. Well, see, there you go. And what happened was the 3 other movies came out, and then there was a long period where people watched them over and over and over again on home video. During the course of that time, the World Wide Internet Web came along, and this footage, this Star Wars holiday special, showed up on the web, and people who'd grown up watching those movies said, "What is this?" And they'd watch it and they go, "Oh my God, George, how could you betray us this way?" and they went after him. You know, there was no keyboard warfare. There were like chat rooms, but it wasn't like today where you can sit on the toilet texting on your phone and ruin someone's life. It was different. And so if he came to second, and George got scared because they were him. I mean, these people were like crazy and like fundamentalists of every stripe. They were nuts.
That's still not as big of a betrayal as Phantom Menace. I'm sorry.
Well, that came later. Then he had to win them back. After they had to forgive him for Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And then the other 2, and then it became like, now it will never go away, and it's huge. And he even made fun of it. He let Legos do a special where they made fun of it, called the Star Wars Lego Holiday Special. They made some reference. Actually, he tried Life Day at the holiday that he thought would be like a Star Wars holiday. And he refers to that in the Lego. And of course, now is May 4th. May the 4th be with you is sort of a half-assed Star Wars holiday. And he also introduced Boba Fett on our show, on the Star Wars holiday, which is the one positive thing that remains that people stop when they're Star Wars.
So that's the Boba Fett introduction is on the holiday special?
The introduction of Boba Fett. Boba Fett was supposed to be
I'm geeking out now.
animated thing that he could not get the money together for. And so they did a short, he had a Canadian operation to a short little film that we inserted into the Star Wars holiday special. And it's the one positive aspect that remains for Star Wars. Other people don't really give a rat's ass, but Star Wars people.
That's my favorite bit of trivia I heard in a long time. I'm going to share that. That's amazing.
I wish I had paid more attention to the franchise. After the first one, that was it. That was it for me.
Well, for a lot of people, but it's amazing. I mean, I am writing a book about how I wrote the worst television shows and lived. Of course, that's in there because
the Paul Lynde
Halloween special.
Halloween special is in that collection, the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, Wayne Newton World.
Barry Manilow. There's a Barry Manilow special in there, wasn't there?
Well, that won the Emmy. The first Barry Manilow won the Emmy. That was.
So, can you talk a little bit about the Paul Lynde one?
unless you hate Barry Manilow, in which case
I love Barry. You gotta love Barry.
Who doesn't love Barry Manilow?
It was the first one, the first show, and he was charming and a little awkward, and the Academy voted, gave us candy. The Paul and Halloween special, no such luck, but it's iconic because, like Hocus Pocus, it's one of the few things Halloween that's a perennial where nobody gets splashed, sliced, and diced. So kids who watched it when they were kids show it to their kids, and now they're grandkids, because it's benign and silly and funny, and also, I mean, there isn't much. But when kids discover Paul Lynde, it's really quite funny. I mean, I wish those two little black guys on who you see them listening to old R&B. There are two kids in Chicago.
Oh, the reaction video.
And they react to hearing Aretha Franklin for the first time,
right?
Or somebody not R&B, Bruce Springsteen. But I would love to see their reaction to Paul Lynde as the witch. He was intrinsically hilarious, and even though so now kids who have no idea who he actually was or what he actually did see him on that show and they laugh, and it's funny.
You're a funny man. Oh God.
He was, on one drink, he was hilarious.
That's what I hear.
2 drinks, it was like the Nazi high command. Oh.
Is it? That's true. Yeah. It's hard. No, not hard to believe.
He was not a good drunk. Not a good drinker. He was unhappy, and that's
kind of sad.
Yeah. There's never going to be another Paul Lynde, though. I mean, what a legend.
Well, yeah. I mean, his style was. The only other Paul Lynde was Alice Ghostley. They were like twins.
That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
I know, and it was a running gag about who's imitating who.
But weren't they in a group together? Weren't they in a theatrical?
Well, they were New Faces of '52.
That's it. Yeah.
And then, of course, later on, they were both on the Witch.
Right.
I'd probably playing brother and sister or uncle and aunt or something. I don't know. I didn't follow him. I would give in and give that. That was a period I would only watch those shows if I was heavily stoned. The way they were. I said, watch them the way they're written. And I have no idea, who even wrote the Witch.
So we didn't even talk about Bette Midler at all.
That we haven't. No. She'll be on the line in a minute saying, "Where am I?"
Oh God!
But she was really. That was sort of when wasn't she your first big kind of break?
She was. Yeah. She was the first person. I was writing for a newspaper, for the Chicago Tribune, and I saw her and loved her and reviewed her, and I wrote a column about her and thought it was funny, and said I was a funny writer, and I said, "You're funny. You should talk more on stage." And she said, "You got any lines?" And that was the beginning. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff for her about Chicago, and it became a thing. She was touring, and wherever she went, I would call. I was the TV critic for the Trib, and I would call the TV critics from all the other papers who I'd met on junkets and ask them what was happening in Cincinnati, wherever she was, and I'd write look stuff, and the audiences would go, "How did she know about that?" Because this was before our current year where everybody knows everything about everything instantly. This is when there was still a little bit of remoteness.
Do you miss that?
Yes, I do. I mean, I do. I mean, it's like, when people say, "Oh, I'd like to go back to ancient Rome," and then somebody else says, "With or without your penicillin."
No, but I understand it. But there's a certain, there's a certain childlike awe that we have when we see something for the first time or something recognizable like that. And not to use the word benign earlier. That would be an example of a benign thing.
I mean, it's before we acknowledged that there was a global village, and of course the interest came in to let us know sure there's a global village, and if you don't believe it, open your email and you'll get mail from that person in Nigeria who wants to make you rich.
Well, from speaking comedically, though, do you find that when you write now, and I know because I'm going through this right now, that I finally gave up the ghost and said, I'm never going to appeal to 20-year-old, 30-year-olds. So
Julie, I've seen you do it.
It's getting harder because they're less and less of them are going to comedy clubs or to theaters. So I'm finding that I have to write for 35, 40 and up. But where are the new audiences for live performance going to come from?
Well,
Or-
I think once we're past this, the COVID hiccup, they'll come back because they'll somebody who they want to see, somebody will emerge who they will want to see. It'll probably be somebody on YouTube. I mean, I'm going to go see Randy Rainbow at the Orpheum Theater in downtown LA, who has sold out 2 shows in November.
well,
Randy
you should. He's
Rainbow
funny, though. I mean,
invented himself on YouTube.
he did,
So,
but there are
and he's
comics
young,
that are. But there are
and
comics that are doing that.
the older people in the crowd.
I don't think
was-
so. You'd be surprised. But there are comics that will go to they're YouTube stars and they go to a theater and they have 20 minutes.
That's their bad taste.
Mm.
I mean,
But that's what we're running into.
Yeah, I mean, they're like one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, I joke with Tony Basil, who's been best choreographer for many, many years.
Oh,
And who
Mickey,
had-
you're so fine,
Oh,
Tony
Mickey,
Basil.
you're so fine. And she's like, I'm the queen of the one-hit wonder. I'm the biggest one-hit wonder of them all. And we joke about it because it didn't work out for her that way. But that was a long time ago, and she's still Tony Basil, and she's so fabulous. She reinvented herself, the doyen of club dancing and salsa and all these things. And she's 78 years old, and she goes to the bar, ballet bar, and can get up and do all of those moves that she could do when she was a kid. So,
Well, wasn't,
that,
to
I
give an
think,
idea,
impresses a younger audience, and I think she has more to give than one hit.
wasn't she an Easy Rider, or am I thinking of somebody else?
She was 5 Easy. One of them, 5 Easy Pieces or Easy Rider. I think 5 Easy Pieces. Hey,
I didn't realize she was
so
as old
funny.
as she was.
I can never remember. She and Helena Kallianitis played a couple. Helena Kallianitis was a very skinny Greek woman who had a Jack Nicholson's girlfriend for a while, and then opened a very trendy restaurant disco, Silver Lake, called Helena's. That ran for about 5 years. It was the place. Closed.
Wait, what was her last name? What was her?
Kallianitis? K-A-L-L.
I think I have just discovered her in some old, I saw that name rings a bell.
There were a couple, and I can't remember. I think it must be Easy Rider. Is that the one where they go to the cemetery in New Orleans and they all do LSD and they all freak out?
Yeah, she was in because it was Easy Rider I was watching.
Yeah,
and I thought Tony Basil, she can't be that old, and yet there she is.
Well, I gave her an award from the Professional Dancer Society a few years ago, and I said she's really amazing. You don't know outside of her dance. In fact, she was in a picture I looked at the other night called Mother, Jugs, and Speed.
I remember that movie.
Yeah. And I'm familiar with 2 of those things. And she played a drug addict, and with a shotgun. And in her big scene, she blows Bill Cosby away.
Oh yeah.
So she was a woman ahead of her time.
Was that Angie Dickinson? No, that wasn't Angie Dickinson. Was it?
In Mother Jugs, Raquel.
Raquel, that's who it was. Yeah, okay, yeah. I remember that movie.
Yeah, it was Cosby, and I forget who there are 2 cops, and Raquel, and Tony's a druggie, and she only worked a couple of days, but she's very memorable. And they shot her whole sequence on the canal in Venice, not Italy, but here in LA. And she lived right off the canal. So I think I walked home.
I got to bring up something else. I got to change the subject before we go. Weren't you also on Broadway?
I was in Hairspray for a year.
You were in Hairspray, yes.
I did a year on the road after I shaved my beard, and then a year on Broadway. I never did the beard back.
What
Yeah.
have you done?
Were you in with? Were you on with Kevin Meaney? Was he in that company?
Yeah. He came in just before I left. He was in. He was one of my many understudies. I don't know why they just did. And he was playing Mr. Pinky. He played what was called the male authority figure. It was Mr. Pinky and a cop and Mr. Spritzer, the head of the hairspray company, and he He was. It wasn't very long. It was like
Yeah.
a month or so before I left. He came in, yeah, and then he stuck around. I think he was.
He did stay there for a while.
It
Yeah.
ran for it ran for 3 more years.
I think he said he did 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think he was in a long time.
He was. Yeah. He always spoke highly of it. We were touring together for a while until he passed. But yeah.
Well,
Big Pants and Hot Flashes tour.
What? He'd
The
been
Big
on
Pants
Square.
and Hot
He'd
Flashes
been on
tour.
Square, too.
I'm sorry, I missed what Bruce said. What?
I said that we brought him onto Hollywood Square.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was great. I miss him. It's gonna be 5 years he's gone this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Anyway. You've done. Before we go, Bruce, what? Okay, you've done so much. What haven't you done that you still want to do?
Jake Gyllenhaal. Wow, and that's so sick because I knew him when he was a child. He played Billy Crystal's son in City Slickers.
I love that.
Oh my
movie.
God, that
Really?
was
He
him.
was a kid. Yeah,
I love
was
that
like
movie. I
7.
didn't realize that.
Wow.
And I look at it now. I mean, these Billy's faces. I miss these faces. There are 2 kids in the movie.
I gotta go back and look at that.
Yeah, I think I was.
Yeah, well, his mother was Naomi Foner, who was a writer-director. Running on Empty was her big writing credit. And his dad was Steve Gyllenhaal, who was a director and but like a lot of AD and stuff. So he grew up with his sister Maggie. They grew up in this atmosphere of storytelling and show business and Hollywood and all of that. So
Wow.
they kind of segued naturally, but he did it early. They identified that he was. So,
I saw him play Seymour, and he did a tremendous job. It was a.
I didn't see it. I mean, I know him. I joke about him, but I know him.
He was screwing up quite a few lines because it was a very quick rehearsal, and
Yeah,
I think I noticed the rest of the cast was kind of taunting him about it. You could tell if you know the musical, you could tell. Oh my God, he's messing with Jake. You could tell.
Ellen loved him. Ellen Green, who went back to do it with him.
Yeah, she was there. That was like it was like Little Shop meets The Graduate.
I would say. I said to Ellen, "What a great idea!" And
Yeah,
but
she was
I mean, they sold so many tickets, and that's the good part because they reached an audience that encores wouldn't normally reach, and they may come back for something else if they ever do something they'd be interested in. Obviously.
Oh my God, the noise went away.
That was
there it
weird.
is.
Oh, it's me then because I just muted my mic.
Oh, okay. We learned.
His house blew up, so we know it wasn't a gas line.
Wait, let's go back to the beginning now. Okay, ready?
Oh, okay.
No.
There's stuff. I'd love to, act more. I mean, I've had a couple of false starts on Broadway. I would love to go back. I'd love to be be the wacky neighbor on a sitcom. That would be fun.
Really? Making a note.
Be the center of anything on any of those. Part of it. Yeah, all of it. But
Julia,
it's not like I mean, I feel like I'm incomplete because I never did the triathlon. It's like, I feel like
I can't imagine why some sitcom hasn't like scooped you up and put you on it.
Oh, I don't know. There've been again a couple of false starts. You just never know. I mean, it's a combination of the right time, right place, right people.
it's true. Even I've done some movies where like if it took off, you go through so much work to put together a movie and write and direct and everything involved, and then you cast me, and then you decide you don't want to release it to the public. I mean,
but those decisions are not. That's not causal.
Right. It was just circumstantial.
It just happened that way.
Oh, Kiss of Death Pollock.
Pauline Kael wrote many years ago, "Hollywood is where you can be encouraged today." And she didn't have to say Hollywood. It could be show business is where you are encouraged. The internet is where you're encouraged today. A lot of people who shouldn't be putting stuff out on the internet are putting it out because they get, I got 3,000 hits. And that's encouraging. And back in the day, people would say, get a day job. Man, go with this shit. But now, you're not allowed to say that because there'll be something that will validate. So
I got to ask your opinion of something because I'm rewatching episodes, which I think is just incredibly
I love
funny.
it. So
Is that Matt LeBlanc?
Mont LeBlanc, but
Matt LeBlanc. The interesting thing to me is Tamsin Gregg and the English writers being put in Hollywood and
yeah,
their take on everything, which is like they can't quite believe.
they're both. I can't decide which one I love more, but
Right.
Tamsin Gregg,
The writers, the point of view is so brilliant.
and the girl's name I can't the one that played the secretary to Pankow. I can't remember her name.
I can't.
Oh my God, is she good? She's so good.
Tamsin Gregg is a favorite of mine. I like her.
I've never seen her in anything but that, though.
She was in a show you could check out. It was like a Bridgerton, but it wasn't Bridgerton. It was on Showtime recently. It was a period piece where she was the central character. And I'm Barclays. Well, just look her up, Tamsin Gregg.
Okay, yeah, well, but they both
have
have great comic chops, so the two of them are
She's
just
really, really good. She's really funny in that. And then there was a musical of the Almodovar movie, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, which she did in London, which was a modest success. It went to Broadway with Laura Benanti and Patti LuPone and bombed. But I love that movie. And at one point, we had a deal to do an American version with Whoopi, The Height of Squares, and it never, but fell apart. But so I know that's why I wound up seeing that piece in London, because I want this piece. And not much, but she's incredible.
She really is. The whole cast is. I give Matt LeBlanc a lot of credit.
Belgravia, that's it. Belgravia, that was the title.
Oh, okay.
Of her series. I knew it had to be Belgravia.
Belgravia.
Real
That's
quick,
the very bougie part of London.
I've heard of that, but before we wrap up,
Belgravia. It's
Belgravia.
around Belgrave Square in Mayfair. It's very high tone.
Before we wrap up, I just want to give Julia a quick plug here. Today, her interview in Hustler magazine came out.
Oh,
Wow.
that's right. Yank him if you got him, folks.
Pink.
Huh?
Pink.
There's a staple in my crutch. It's a nice interview, though. Actually, they did a nice interview. I don't know if anybody's going to see it, but it's a really
so
nice
pick
interview.
up Hustler if you can find it somewhere and watch Julia's watch. I mean, buy for the article.
If I can find, there's a Hustler store out here, Hustler
Well, there you
Hollywood.
go. Huh?
But they moved it. They tore down the block, but it moved. Now I have to figure out where it is. Because whenever I went in there, they would make a big fuss over me.
I did. I can't imagine.
They would move me towards the dildo section. I don't know what they thought. Because I was generally in there buying gag presents.
Sure. Sure.
And it was there was the Pleasure Chest is the other place that had it, but they were being renovated. So I went to Hollywood. I figured dildo's a dildo.
You can also see the documentary that you should My Life.
Yes.
Julia Scotti, Funny That Way. That's
Funny That Way in Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And you have one more Women of a Certain Age coming out, a new one, don't you?
I don't, but I don't know when hers is coming out. The new one's coming out. It's good cast.
Is it still Fran or is it somebody else?
No, Fran was just the first one. Ours was Caroline Ray. Well, actually, Carol Leifer was the host, I think.
I did see that.
That was the one you saw me in. Yeah. Yeah.
Caroline, America's Sweet.
She was. I don't know. She was
a regular on
great.
Squares with me.
She was great. She was real. All the women on the show were great. We had a wonderful time.
And
Really
Melissa, where can we see you? Or are you too busy selling your house? I understand that stress. So you're just going to be on the radio, right?
You can see me in the trash can outside my house trying to hide from everybody. That's where you can see me.
I understand that.
Just the radio right now. I think once we move and get settled into the new house, there's going to be a couple of other projects, but one day at a time.
And Bruce, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, sure. I will be at Milwaukee Pride, emceeing the shows on October 8th and 9th. And
Oh.
Very cool.
there you go, which will be a big outdoor thing that they finally, pulled together. They're finally COVID-free enough that they can do it. And then I'm doing Fort Lauderdale Thanksgiving weekend at a new room called the Savory, which certainly describes me. Salty and tasty. Well, taste free.
I always thought of you as full body too, not just savory, but full body.
Full bodied savory.
Yeah.
If you're in Lauderdale for Thanksgiving, and if you're gay, why aren't you in Lauderdale? You're
Well,
avoiding
thank you
your
so much.
family.
Bruce, we're waiting for you at the Candlelight Theater in Arden too, so put that on your
Well,
list.
I'll have to put a word in there. I have actually working on something which we're talking to Delaware Theater Center about bringing in something new.
Yeah, let me
So,
know.
I may be in the nave.
All
If
right,
you're in the
yeah,
nave,
let us
reach
know.
out.
I may have
You
to
have a
check
gig.
out Arden while I'm there.
Absolutely.
Beautiful
I'll
little
stop
barn.
on by.
Well, hang out for just a second. We're going to end the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Bruce and Julia and Melissa. And next week, same time, we have Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma Films. I'm a little fanboying about that one. And take care. Have a great night. Betsy Connor, just from the Candlelight, just tuned in. That would be great. So you have a gig at the Candlelight.
Perfect.
Baby. Keep a candlelight in the window.
Oh,
Hey,
I'll be there.
thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a
Let
great
me
everyone.
out
Bye,
of
Bruce.
Rehoboth.
Bye,
I'll
Julia.
do
Thank
that.
you.
good night.
Good
Night,
night.
everyone.
Bye.